welcome everybody to our LiveStream podcast series with Dawna and Lee. And we have as our special guest with us today, we would like to welcome Josefina Bilotta. We've known Josefina for a little while, and so what we decided to do was change the format because we love working with her and talking with her so much that we asked her to come on our podcast. Josefina, do you want to say hello to people? Maybe introduce yourself a little bit.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you, Dawna, for inviting me to this special talk about AI and human connections. It's a pleasure for me to be here today, and I'm really excited about this chat. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and we're really excited as well. So for those of you that might want to contact Josefina afterwards, there's an email address. You can look her up and contact her via LinkedIn and so forth. And thought we would get into it. We've had a number of conversations about artificial intelligence and human connection, and they've been wonderful. So we decided that we would bring it together. Who would like to maybe kick us off just as an introduction to what it is we're talking about today? How about you, Dawna? Just say a couple of things and then we'll bring Josefina in as well.
Yeah, we're going to follow the same format and ideas. So one of the things we often talk about AI is that space of like, where does it live? How does it get involved? And through our conversations together, it really is stopping to think about how is it that we can focus on those positive components and what value can it bring to enhancing our interactions together and also our concept and time of how we choose to spend our personal time, getting out of that continuously rat race of always being busy and sitting versus that ability to actually have some movement and motion and connection with people. So hopefully we're going to take you on that journey today and to really look at the positive components and in particular, the connection between how AI can actually allow us to bring those things together to sort of have greater human connections. So Josefina, why don't we start? Are you good with that? We'll start with the first one on our perspective of human connection. What are some of your thoughts based on your expertise?
Sure. Based on my expertise, I feel like we are in a new era, in a new movement that brings a lot of change, right? And as human connections change, it could be a little bit challenging sometimes and could be a little bit of like stepping on the side or looking from a different perspective. But the more I'm using AI, the more I could see that AI is giving me more time to have more human connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
That again, it could be a challenge for some people because we're not used to have some free time. But I think that's where we're moving into. Like this new tool is coming to help and to support, right? If we use it on the right way. But I see that positive, way positive side that AI is going to start bringing extra time for people to start building real connections and to have what makes us special, right? Like those human connections and those emotions connecting.
One of the things that you say is I find that when I use it, I really appreciate it because it actually brings in different topics that I might not have connected the dots. So maybe I know like this part of it, but when I ask a question or I ask something about AI, I'm actually interested in finding a new perspective. And then that allows me to, from a human connection perspective, actually have different conversations that it's not that I'm not capable of having them, but they were never in my wheelhouse before. It wasn't a
100%.
tool that I had. Thoughts on that from others?
Yeah. I like to say that it's like having a person who read all the books and has a different perspective, right? Like when we get together, we all have different perspective based on the context where we grow up, based on our language, based on our traditions, based on our family, right? And having the perspective of AI that is kind of clean in quotation mark, but has like more resources where it was trained. That's a really good point. But also we need to be aware that it's been trained on, imagine like every book and every website that you can think about it, right? And what is on the websites and on the books is a reflection of the society too. So that's where we also find the bias. That's where we always usually find like where our thoughts are going or shifting into different topics, right? So we need to be aware that is a perspective that is being is a reflection of the society at one point too.
Lee, want to add
When
something
we,
to that?
yeah, when we were first talking, Josefina, you were doing some work with charitable organisations. I think that's right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And part of your mission was to say, have you discovered this amazing AI tool set, the amazing AI, whatever we want to call AI, because it's going to give you more time to do the things that you really want to do. So the time could be used for bigger, greater impact, if you want, in a way, for the core mission of what the charities were about, rather than people spending lots of time doing administration and writing letters and answering things that it could help them do, or even writing documents and things like that. And that really struck me. When we spoke about it. It also, the other part of the conversation was about shifting the narrative away from, towards the true impact of what people were trying to do with their kind of charitable missions. Would it be okay to ask you to expand on that a little bit as well,
Sure.
because it plays into time? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. So my expertise, I've been in the nonprofit sector for more than 10 years. I also like to say that philanthropy is in my DNA. Like since I was born, I was involved with the nonprofit sector in different ways, right? From peer-to-peer fundraising to volunteering until today, to become a donor, to be part of the creation of a nonprofit. So I've been in the different sections of a nonprofit. On the other side, I love technology. I have passion for technology. I love using technology for good causes, right? And when I combined those two words, I was like, this is a great tool. Like the nonprofits, the biggest issues they have is no time, no money, and no resources. That's what you always find in the nonprofit sector. And when I start using AI, I'm like, oh my gosh, in one tool, you get access to tons of resources that the nonprofits don't have, spending a little bit of money and giving them a lot of time, because at the end, the nonprofit, it's about connections, right? People give to people. People don't give to an organization that they have nothing to do with them. There is, if you dig in a little bit, there is one human connection attached. So when I start like digging into this AI, like ChatGPT or any other tools, I'm like, this is a really useful tool. But then when I start talking to the nonprofits, the biggest thing that I find is a big block in front of them saying, no, this is not ethic. This is the data privacy. What about like my job? I'm going to be replaceable. And fair enough, when there is something that is not known and is not common, people like to wait in the other side and see what is happening to then make a decision if they want to be part of not. Now, I've been seeing nonprofits that they are like taking the lead because they are saying the other way. Ethical will be to like would be to not be using a tool that is bringing us tons of resources for a little bit of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're like shifting the ethical point. Like ethical would be that, right? Like
We're not using the money as effectively as we could. We're not making the choices.
Exactly.
It is a dynamic space, though. You say, like, people give to people in the not-for-profit, profit, corporation, community, all those different spaces that the three of us actually just naturally, the three of us are all pretty community-oriented people. That people give to people, and people actually choose how to help in the workplace based on people to people. If someone if you have a relationship with someone, you likely may make different choices in how you interact with them. And so if we think about actually, one of the things we talk about in our program is that space of actually slowing down. And I think AI allows us to slow down, even though it's fast paced. When we actually have that time to slow down and we have that chance to make people connections, what is it that you think, what do we think that actually stands in the way? What causes us not want to slow down? What causes us, not from a negative perspective, I don't want to take it to a negative, but from a positive perspective, I want to keep it positive. But like, what is it that sometimes stops us from wanting free time?
That's a really good question. I wish I had the correct answer for that one. I think it could change depending on different persons. But I feel like we're not used to have free time, right? We used to be busy, and not many people could live with the free time of now I can do whatever I want, right? And I think that's something that we're going to start learning how to shift into that, right? Like having more free time. What I've been seeing is like, yes, I'm getting free time because I'm using AI, but I'm adding more into my plate. And then I end up more overwhelmed, right? I believe people, I'm including myself into this one. We're not used to be with free time for ourselves, right? So I think that's going to be one of the challenges, even though we don't want to touch in there, but I think it's going to be, we need to start like looking, what are we good at? Like, I don't know, go swimming, go for walks, go to see your friends, go to watch a movie, or like, I don't know, do different activities that like fills you as a human. But yeah, it's going to be, I think that's going to be one of the challenges. Like AI is going to be giving us free time, but we need to learn how to manage that free time and how to deal with that free
that's
time.
that's that opportunity, right? You know, it's just that
100%.
language choice and the way to look at it. It's that space of when we sit to think about that human connection, when we can actually think about having an extra information on the table, ideas or biases, things that we don't even realize until we start reading it that we have a bias. When we're actually able to sit down and have those types of conversations, like Lee, what do you think sort of is that space of what allows us, or how is it that we can allow ourselves to jump into conversations where we are being asked to explore new things because of AI, right? Like my favorite thing to do is on holidays is go to another country, find an English book, because that's, I'm sorry to say, I only speak read one language. I always feel I need to change that, but it's one of those things. A space. I also go into another country to find a book, because even the authors in other countries on the same topic is fascinating to me. And I've done that all over the world when I've traveled. I pick up a book from another country. So that's one of my ways I try and break down my biases.
Yeah.
So just how do we become comfortable with those types of things, Lee? What do you think? Or Josefina?
I think I mean, you hear people, if you go back and watch these podcasts, you'll hear me say this over and over again, is that in many ways, the most important relationship that you have is that relationship with yourself, who you are, and how comfortable you are with yourself can have, I think, a huge bearing on this. You know, some people love their own company, don't they? Some people like to be in the company of other people. So, you know, what you were exploring, I think, Josefina, was, you know, there's more opportunity to do things which bring us joy, spending time with our friends, or for you, Dawna, spending more time traveling the world and reading books by authors from different places and having those experiences. I think that the other thing that, you know, I go back to the question is maybe what gets in the way is that it's possible that we've been trained in the modern world of work to be thinking about being efficient, being effective, doing, and you know it. And we on, you know, within some of the work that we do, we talk about the work of Sean Aker and the idea of happiness, you know, and success happiness comes before success, and how we take key KPIs and kick them down the road. You know, we've met that one, so what we'll do is we'll up it a bit and we'll make it, you know, X, Y, Z next year. But the opportunity to not do that is starting to emerge. And so it's a big shift, not just for us as individuals, but it's also a big shift for, you know, organizations and, you know, maybe even cultural thinking around time. time that we need is going to be different, in the future. So it's a thinking barrier as well as anything else, or a being barrier. How do I want to be in future?
Yeah. I do see that this barrier not only on the AI era, like it's
Outside
been
of it.
shifting all the time, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
it's more working on ourselves and understanding and being comfortable with that extra time, right? It's not always doing, because that's when we end up like burn out and overwhelmed and so stressed. So then we're in that wheel again that it's really hard to. So that is one of my biggest recommendations for people is like, yes, stay in the loop of what is happening with AI. Use the tools. Be curious. Just open ChatGPT. Open different like Copilot, whatever you want, Gemini, whatever you feel like you want to try. But start testing and play around. Right? Don't get out of this new movement that is happening, and it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay, and it's going to start changing a little bit more every day in our life. But also invest yourself in your soft skills, because that's what we're going to be moving into, right? AI is going to start taking into more tasks that we're used to do. But now we're going to have more time to be connecting with other people, connecting with ourselves. So that is the piece of advice that I would bring into here. Like, as much as you are like training yourself on AI, don't forget to invest in your soft skills, in connections with humans and in connections with yourself, right?
And that's I mean, I'm just personally a big believer in that, creating time for self. And it's something I will sometimes, at most times, I find quite easy to do, is to create that space. Not always, things overtake, but it is definitely that space. It allows you to show up differently, because when you sit down at a table, there's a whole variety of different things that you can talk about, and that ability to actually think about the concept of having space and time is even showing up in, like, we used to get to a meeting 5 minutes before, sit down, talk and chat. Even the whole concept of learning how to slow down and be present, and find time for those connections, and not always be asking people for things, but actually be truly interested in somebody and what they're doing and how things are going. And we talk about how people really feel that. So part of the acceptance of AI and the perspective of that human connection is about how you show up and what type of energy that you're giving off. So when people bring the concept of, a tool shared this information, or this is some new ideas, what kind of energy do we give off? How open are we to it? Are we the type of person that actually engages in things where they need to learn to do new things? Because we know that when we engage over here in new things, we're likely going to be able to apply that over here when we're sitting at a board table or on a Zoom call or on a Teams call. And so any thoughts on those kind of ideas that have been shared?
I think. Well, I was sorry, Josefina. I know Dawna reasonably well, and I know that she is good at creating time, for herself. She does lots of things at the gym and walking the dog and things like that, which is really important. I think what is demonstrated in that is that well-being and the ability to take care of yourself and therefore other people more effectively is a skill set that you can learn how to do it. And it's possible that because of the kind of pace of change of life that we've been living through, that we pay less attention to those things. And then when we start to pay more attention to those things, we're prone to a bit of judgment by other people. Now I can do my job in 3 hours rather than 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
Who am I actually going to tell anyone about that, or am I just going to invest, in the things that bring me joy? So
I think there's lots of people sitting at their desk right now that do that. I remember one time walking into my boss and saying to him on a project, saying, I have nothing to do after I have nothing to do. And I do not know what to say, but I think there's lots of people that are in that space and there's not the trust and there's not the appreciation for it.
Right.
It's not an easy, it's a whole other thing, but I just want to let you know, I think there's people that are sitting there today that could be listening and saying, yeah, there's days when I don't, and I would like to be able to have a different focus. I might like to know that I could listen to a bunch of podcasts because I'm interested in something and that would be considered work, or I could deep dive and go down a rabbit hole because that's the type of learner they are and person they are. And then they could use AI as that, but finding spaces so that we can have human connections with our project leads, our peers, that we are actually doing something. We're not being lazy. This is part of this dynamic. We actually have to be comfortable with saying to somebody that we have time to do the things that we enjoy and bring us joy. And AI allows us to do that. And then for people to actually be interested in us as well. That's the other part of the equation here, is that human connection is actually truly being interested in what someone else's hobbies are or what their interests are or how they actually do their job. Not the way I would do it. Lee and I do the same job very differently. But yet it works, right, Lee?
Yeah.
Thoughts, Josefina? You're the expert. It does work. I feel for students sometimes in class.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. But Josefina, thoughts on that? You're the expert, not us. So I will love to hear.
Yeah, like I agree with what you were saying in here. I do feel like we're still in that stage that people is not saying that they're using AI. Like some of them feel like they're cheating.
Yes.
I'm proudly saying, yes, I am really conscious of data privacy and what I am talking about. I personally don't, it doesn't bother me if they know my information. I feel like it's too late to ask that question. In my side, at least, my house, like I can turn on and off the lights. I have a really techie house. So I'm connected with so many devices that I feel like they're listening to me in every single room, right? But I'm proudly saying that I'm using AI for many of my, I feel like nowadays it should be the other way. Like if you're not using AI, you're missing an opportunity. Mm-hmm. When I do a design, I throw it into ChatGPT and ask, with the perspective of a graphic designer, which of these two designs that I made do you think is better? This is going to this platform this is the goal that I am looking for. And I get a pretty honest, and the description that is given to me is like, you should go with version number 2 because of the typo, because of the colors. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I haven't seen that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm using it the same way as having a super colleague that has a different perspective. Mm-hmm. It's not 100% always right, but it's a different point of view. Mm-hmm. At the end, AI is a tool. We are putting the prompt in there and we are deciding what to do with that information. Mm-hmm. AI is not telling you that, it's not building things for you, right? You still need a human in the backside typing and bringing instructions for what you want them to do. And then AI is bringing the whatever you're asking, and then you're deciding what you're doing with that information. Are you using it? Are you changing it? Are you sharing? Are you deleting? You need more. You need to refine whatever you're working on. But it's not that it's replacing your job. It's like the calculators, right? Yes. Back in the day, calculators didn't replace mathematic people. It was just a tool that it was like helping them to be like working on bigger problems, right? So I'm using it this way. It's a tool, it's a vehicle. It's not replacing humans.
Well, if you actually look at the data, it actually shows like there's the AI, but part of in that 4 quadrants, and there's something I just, when you see different things that are coming around, that real value and concept of critical thinking. And one of the things that we know about critical thinking is we can critically think together and be comfortable. The 3 of us probably could have a very somewhat different of opinion on the same topic, but that ability for us to critically think, listen, and we refer to it as mental contrasting, being able to hold different ideas and them all being true. That ability for us to really do that comes because of the human connection. I know that I can say something and I'm still going to be my language, welcome back at the table. I mean, I'm not allowed to offend anybody, but I can have a difference of opinion and I can do it in a really kind way. And then we can explore it together.
Yeah. That's exactly the way that I am seeing it too. Like,
yeah. Because that's what you're doing, right? When you're reading the ideas about your image or your...
Yeah. It's just having a different perspective. Again, it's not always right.
Yes.
And at the end, we have that superpower of making the decision yes or no, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've heard it described as learning to stand on the shoulders of, the AI tools, rather than, to enhance our experience, to be able to kind of, be emancipated in the one level, or that sounds a little bit kind of far off sometimes. I don't know how far off it actually is, because we're already talking about, people having more time. And I think standing on the shoulders for me is about the human endeavor, in the things that we can achieve, but it's also about fulfillment and shifting away from this kind of continuous grind that we sometimes find ourselves in, towards a much more joyful way of being, a more joyful life. If nobody really would want to spend 18 hours a day at work and then 2 hours a day with family, not these days.
I want to believe that nobody wants to do that, right? Like,
nobody wants to do that, but sometimes people are in that kind of position. They're working those days, and we're slowly we've been turning the dial. So now we 7-hour days. Well, what about then we're down to 5-hour days, then 3-hour days, and then suddenly 2-hour days. But that frees up time to do the things that are joyful, and it may still be work, but it's not work where you're where you have the kind of sword of Damocles hanging over you around. If you don't work harder, or you won't get paid, or your personal development or your performance plans coming up, and all of that disappears, because actually people are freer to be able to do the things that bring them joy. And if your organization, by the way, is a place where people find joy, that's where they will be working, because the mission, they can get behind the mission. Anyway, that's my little contribution. My hope, I suppose.
Yeah, if we are feeling tense and we feel like we can feel our heart beating out of our chest, there's no, I mean, it's this pretty strong statement, I guess, but I would say there's almost no way, or it's very little chance, that we are actually going to be open to new ideas. And with AI, it continuously brings new ideas, new ways of doing things, new processes. And so the meaningful human connection, and as the beating heart of AI, is that to have those connections and to be open to the information that AI can actually bring, that positive opportunities of joy. If you want to work 18-hour days and that's joyful for you, lovely, right? That's not that's not my place to decide. But that space of being able to really understand that we need to be able to feel people around us. So therefore, whatever information, and here we're talking about AI, it could be a new information from a supplier, right? It could be a new product. It could be new robotics in the company. That space of being able to really stop and think, like, do I feel like I can breathe here? Do I feel like I can think here? Do I feel like people at the table want me here? Do I bring value to the table, right? Has that been shared with me? Have I felt appreciation and gratitude? Because we know the heart starts to beat actually very differently when we have those really interesting facts with us. So I guess we're getting to sort of that time. Josefina, would you like to close with a thought?
Yeah, like, I was talking more as a personal point of view, but I think if we have leaders in this life, like, I think it's a great task for them to be leading this change with companion, with love, and with putting the ear and listening to their employers in there, and understanding what are the needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like as much as they need to be training for this transition that we're moving into, is also like maybe re-questioning ourselves, what is the word work, right? What includes work? Is it just being productive all the time? Is it about like including more meetings and human connections? Is it about like training and making sure that the person that is working for your company is in that happiest spot, right? And is not feeling that pressure that is not being listened or is going to be replaced, or like, I don't think AI could replace humans. I do think that it's going to be an amazing tool that will support us to keep doing more amazing things, always looking on the positive side, right? The same way that we use it for good things, people could use it for the bad things, but I'm not going to get into there. But we need to be aware of that too. All I'm saying is, like, I believe that AI is going to bring us more opportunities to solve some of the issues that we're trying to, and we cannot. And I think it's going to bring us a different perspective into that. And also it's going to give us more time for ourselves. So my recommendation is to stay on the loop with AI, but also don't forget to develop and keep growing your soft skills, because and being comfortable with having free time and having and understanding what is your solo moment, right? Too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lee, we would like to thank, Lee and I would like to thank you, Josefina, for being here today. And as always, I've enjoyed these conversations and I am super grateful we've had a chance to do this again. So thank you very much for being here today. And thank you for listening to our live stream with Dawna and Lee. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.